Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series as we continue through the week. It is the Mike and Joe show today. Mike, welcome
Hello.
back in.
Good afternoon.
Always fun. Two comedians here, if we say so ourselves, right?
Yeah, I guess you could.
Most people would say no.
Yeah,
but
probably not.
But we're here to pass on hopefully some education information, as we always try to do. For 7 years now, the focus, the objective is always the same, and that is to help you, the consumer, make some educated, our plan is when you go to choose a realtor, financial planner, financing, estate planning, no matter what you do, you choose the right person to help you, guide you through that, and someone you trust, and we're going to continue to help you navigate through that. Before we get started into our topic today, just a reminder, if you want someone that's going to help you navigate this crazy market and the housing market, looking to list or maybe looking to buy, contact Mike. You could do that at area code 408-630-0101, or you could always email Mike at reradiolive.com. If you have any need for financing, maybe a purchase, looking to get pre-approved, understanding how much you could qualify for, or big fan right now, consolidating the first and seconds, the prime will probably be going up, which means your equity lines are going to go up slowly but surely. Give me a call, 408-838-9060, or you could always email me at joe@reradiolive.com. So the topic today, Mike and I are going to talk a little bit about the famous FSBO. It's not the clown FSBO. Isn't there a clown somewhere around FSBO?
I think it's both.
Maybe it's the clowns that do the FSBOs.
Yeah, that's right. It's the clown. There you go. You set yourself up good for that one.
Anyway, we're going to talk about for sale by owner, and I'm going to kind of talk to Mike a little bit about step-by-step what that means. I mean, you're hearing a lot about it. People talk about it, but when you're in the middle of this industry like we are, every day we see all kinds of different transactions. We're going to go through and kind of educate you, I hope, in those people that are thinking about it. You might think twice after you hear what we have to say, and really just more so education and facts around what that means and how to go about it. And then some of the menu-based services, there's some programs out there that would suggest, hey, rent an agent, do your own open house, do some your own marketing, and we're going to talk a little bit about the piecemeal type things, and again, in the form of education. What's going on in the market? Same stuff, low inventory.
Same story,
crazy.
Different day,
We could probably just hit replay.
Yeah, we could.
On that section, huh?
We just talked about it at our sales meeting at the office this morning, and it was, I put up some numbers from MLS yesterday. I mean, it was 800-plus single-family homes in the entire county, and that's out of 140,000 taxable single-family homes in the county.
Crazy.
Or in San Jose alone. It was San Jose. Which is the biggest, it's the biggest city in Silicon Valley. So, I mean, that is just like 0.00 something % of actual properties that you could buy in the entire area. So, I think people were pretty shocked by that.
So, this is one of the things, Mike, as you know, we both know, that is leading people more into low inventory, crazy offers, escalating prices, appreciation going through the roof. These are some of the reasons some people are going, well, gosh, why not sell my house by myself? Why not for sale by owner? So maybe if you could first start by, so that people see that a lot, FSBO, right, for sale by owner. So some people try to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. This has been a trend, I guess, a little bit on for a while. Tell us a little bit about that process and maybe walk us through it, what a person might be getting into. You're sitting here today, and even better, you sit down with a client across their kitchen table at their house, and they say, well, Mike, this looks great. You obviously have all the credentials, and there's all kinds of reasons why I should hire you, but I'm hearing these stories that I could just sell this darn thing by myself.
Yeah. I would ask them, well, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Because we get paid for our, I mean, there's a lot of different services that realtors provide, but I would say if you're out there thinking about selling on your own, you got to really question how much time you have on your hands, because it's a pretty involved process from going from, taking pictures of the house to showings to open houses to contracts and all the other marketing tasks and everything. So, I mean, maybe if you didn't have, anything else better to do, which I assume most people do, if you're listening to a podcast, I assume you have better things to do, because the reason you're listening to it is because it saves you time. You can list it on your own time, right? So I would say really analyze how much time you have, because there's a lot there's a reason you hire professionals.
Right.
And so I think time is the number one thing that you got to look at, on top of all the other things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so time, that's a big one for sure, because it takes a lot of time. A lot of people don't appreciate that. But right from the beginning, take us through, maybe you have a checklist. I know it's in your mind. You do this every day. You live and breathe it. But, I mean, from not only preparing the house, right? Does it need paint? Does it need landscaping? What is the neighborhood like? How much should I invest in? Because there's so many things that come up. You're going to know these things because you're familiar with them. You're going to have an idea right away when someone asks you these questions.
Yeah.
So one of the things that if a person does this on their own, I would think that and I don't mean this in a negative, but they would be clueless on so many things that it takes to prepare that house to get ready.
On things that, absolutely, on things that would prepare the house. They're clueless on things that, of course, you could Google things, but you never really know. And things that you're going to market the property on, you're going to miss out on that whole, and that's a whole nother, we could do a whole nother podcast on the capability of exposing a property on MLS and the multiple listing service. But there's just going to be a lot of things that you're not going to know or even be able to be a part of, because the brokerage community is not going to, I mean, you're kind of a lone wolf if you're a for sale by owner, especially in this market. It's pretty rare in Silicon Valley to see a for sale by owner. Now, I know it's a little more prevalent across the country in different markets, but you really got to analyze, how much do you really know if you're not a real estate professional doing this day in, day out. A lot of this business is about the connections you have with different vendors and different, different agents and all that stuff. So you got to really analyze that.
And then there's talk about one of the things that I see as the most potential volatility in something like this is these transactions happen to be emotional at times, right?
Oh yeah,
or can absolutely be emotional at times. So you quite often you have a person that is getting ready to potentially sell their home, and to begin with, there's history, there's memories, and the famous one that you always see more than anybody, but everybody always thinks differently of their house than
of
others,
course,
right?
Yeah, we made this for it, and then you look at it, you're like,
don't they realize that I polish this marble every Wednesday evening? I polish this marble, and there should be a value to that.
That's right.
But no, I think what I'm saying is the whole emotional component. One of the reasons you need a professional is that you play the in-between. You play the negotiator, the mediator, the therapist, the counselor. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a homeowner by themselves trying to get into some kind of a negotiations with a potential buyer?
Yeah, no, I mean, and people try it. It's just it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah,
you need that intermediary and that person that has your best interest in mind, but can also buffer the kind of the BS, I guess you call it. There's no other better way to put it.
Yeah, and I think the emotional part, the stuff that they have no idea about, preparing the home, I mean, inspections, all these different things that have to take place in getting ready for this. And then how do you price it? I mean, I think people become geniuses all of a sudden in markets like this too. You see that, well, this is what my house is worth. And then it'd be funny to ask the question, well, where'd you come up with that?
Yeah, I think the pricing is really important. And there's statistics out there that show that for sale by owners historically sell less than properties that are on the market. So there's that aspect too. You think you're saving money by not paying commission, but really you're losing money because you're getting a lower price for your home. So it kind of doesn't make sense. But anyways, with the pricing, I mean, we all know that Zillow is inaccurate. We talk about it we've talked about it before. Zillow admits it themselves. If you go to the bottom of their website, they admit
there's
that
lawsuits with that right now, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there probably is, and but it's even on their website. There's a disclaimer that there. I think the last time I checked, it was 7. There could be a 7% difference. I've seen way more than that difference, and I've seen it be pretty accurate sometimes. It just depends. So, anyways, I went off on a tangent, but basically the pricing. I mean, you know, you're not going to have. Yeah, you have access to MLS publicly. But as a realtor, part of our job is to go see the inventory, know what the inside of houses look like, know what's going on with the property that's currently in contract, having those relationships with other agents and being able to call them and say, hey, what are you going to close at? This type of data is very important when you're pricing a property. You need to know that in the inside track on that stuff. And you as a consumer aren't going to have access to that information. That's important. Yeah,
and we have to take a break here in a minute, and we'll get into the more of the details and the meats of it. But I would say that other than the emotional component of it, which is you're looking for a recipe for disaster, but probably the single biggest one is how are you going to navigate the contract and any potential legal aspects that come up?
Well,
do they even know what a contract looks like and what it means? And they
won't be using a standard real estate contract, so they're going to have to figure that out themselves. They're going to take on all the liability themselves. Are they going to have the proper disclosures? Probably not. Are they going to know how to fill those disclosures out? Probably not.
Right.
And even if they did know how to fill out the disclosures, they're not going to have their little realtor in their ear telling them disclose, disclose, disclose. They might be thinking to themselves, well, if I don't say this, then you might get this.
Right.
And that's a terrible way of thinking as a home seller, as a seller.
Yeah, it really is.
So think about that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mike and I are going to continue talking about the ins and outs of the for sale by owner, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of some of the other menu-based services, I call them, where it's almost like you go on and you kind of rent different services, which are going to get people in a lot of trouble as well. This is Joe Kuchera sitting alongside with Mike D'Ambrosio. We'll be back with you to continue in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, sitting alongside Mike D'Ambrosio. We're talking today, the topic, facts about FSBO, we call it, for sale by owner. Most of you may see this. It is predominantly, I think, this takes place more in different areas of the country. I think the last statistics I saw, Mike, is around 7 or 8% nationwide, I think.
Yeah.
Or for sale by owner, which makes sense. And that probably takes place in different parts of the country.
Right. A little higher in different parts than others.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I very rarely see those around this area in the Silicon Valley. So let's finish our thoughts about that, and then we'll talk about some of these other kind of menu-based services. So a little more about the contract maybe, or some of the legalities about
let's go back to analyze maybe why in the Silicon Valley there isn't as many as other places. And the only thing I can think of is amount of liability because the values are so high here. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that that's the real reason, or is there other reasons? I can't pinpoint it, but
I think there's a couple. I think that's one of them. I mean, the average, we all know by now, the average in these counties was at 1.1 million. That's average, and keep in mind we do live in an interesting world where an average home is $1 million, whether we like it or not, it's here. And it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So I think you're right. The one area of concern is the amount of potential liability. That's a lot of money. It's a lot different than selling a $150,000 home in Texas, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think the other part of it too, Mike, is where is the value and really the price point and how much you're going to get for your home. My point is that it's been proven, we mentioned it on the earlier segment, that overall statistics bear out that by using a realtor, people on an average get more money.
Yeah.
So I would be concerned, to answer your question, the other part I would be legality for sure, because you're opening yourself up to a mess.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even have any clue about, we take it for granted, I think, right? All the things that go into a contract and the disclosures that are signed and how people are protected and people as part of that transaction are protected. So if you go away from that contract and you enter into something on your own, whether it's custom or with an attorney or whatever, you're opening yourself up to so many issues. So I think number one, liability for sure, big time.
Yeah.
But I do think the other one in this area is, let's face it, when someone's getting ready to sell $1 million, $2 million, $3 million home, in some cases, their equity's at stake. And they're going to want someone to represent them that's going to get the most out of this potential sale of that.
Yeah, and I think along those lines too, it's harder to price homes out in this area. Whereas if you're out in, like a good example, Texas, and a huge plot of tract homes, it's pretty easy to price properties. Out here, you have so many different types of properties and remodels and micro markets and everything. I mean, I think that it's harder to find the real value. So I think people are more cautious of losing out on that money, So.
I think the other one that I feel like when it comes to mind is the ability to negotiate with a potential buyer. And here's my point. Like you, right? So in an average day, you're going to get 10, 15, 20 offers if you're listing a home, right? So you're going to review those offers. You're going to sift through them, because you know so well what contingencies about, cash, how much down, what kind of financing, all these things. If you're selling your home on your own and you look at 10 offers, I could tell you right now, most people will be clueless of what that means. Well, what do you mean 10-day contingency? Well, what do you mean I have to sell my house first? Or what do you mean it's all cash? But you know what I'm saying? My point is the other piece of this that I think people forget about is, you're not only selling a person's house, but you're representing the buy in terms of you are making a strong recommendation to your seller.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, these are the two offers I would recommend because, and let me explain it to you. If you're doing this by yourself, you're looking at these offers. Do you really know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard as a seller to really know what to look for, and what's going to mean the best in your situation. And also, I mean, doing the analysis on their financing and on their down payment and on their contingencies and pinning those against each other. And then are you going to know how to negotiate those up? Because that's what a realtor does. Their job is to get you the highest and best price with the best terms. Are you going to know how to do that properly? I think is important too. So.
Yeah, I think overall we're going to see more and more information about all the different disruptions in all kinds of industries, and ours is not alone, whether it's lending, real estate, and many others. But I do also believe that different models will work in really different areas and different demographics.
Right.
I've said before, if you look at the ones that seem to be getting a lot of press, there's the open doors, iOffers, iBuyer, these things. Well, again, if you look under the hood, what's happening? These are low-priced homes, and these are flippers. And what a lot of people don't understand is the average commission that those online companies collect is somewhere between 8 and 10%.
Yeah.
But the people don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no,
right?
They don't.
And the reason why is they say, "Oh, don't worry, we're taking care of your title and escrow, and we're taking care of your attorney fees and all that stuff." But the bottom line is, again. So I think there's markets for all these different things as we transition into this new world in which we live in which we operate in. But this is a unique area, and I still think that the average professional, in my opinion, and I research this stuff every day, day in and day out, the average professional would tell you, you know what? If I'm selling my $2 million home, I want someone that really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to nail it down, and I know we're specifically, people could potentially listen to this podcast all over the place. I get it, but majority are listening to it in and around the Bay Area.
Would you say the equal to this on the lending side is using like online lending?
Yeah, I mean,
outfits or what?
Yeah, so the biggest one I would say is Quicken Loans.
Yeah.
They're there's no brick and mortar at all. I mean, they are one of the biggest lenders in the nation right now, and they do some of the most volume in the nation. And they don't have a single brick and mortar retail operation. So you can't walk up to a Quicken Loan anywhere.
Right.
So it's very similar. And so what happens is we compete against them every single day, and here's the reason why. If someone said, well, Joe, what's the biggest threat to the lending industry? I'd say a place like Quicken Loans, because, they have thousands of people sitting in call centers, and they do an unbelievable job in marketing.
Yeah.
TV, radio, social media. And the reason why they could really navigate and compete is that they're paying people probably 30 to 40% less than we get paid. But they get away with it because they have a bunch of people they hire young out of college. They train them,
right? And
they're paying them a minimum wage plus, they get money based on deals closed. So this is the same type of thing in a way, because now you can pick up the phone here and call an 800 number, and you're going to get someone at Quicken Loans. And I'll be honest with you, most of the time, I would say at least 60 to 70% of the time, they're probably going to have better pricing than us. Whenever it comes to the rate or fees. So what we have to try to then convince people is especially on a purchase, close of escrow, timelines, why it's so important to work with someone in a relationship in the geographical area, in a partnership with a transaction, to have them a better chance of closing on time. And so this is very similar. And, they're cropping up all over the place. It's really the same type of activity. So the decision is the relationships. Are you willing, in some cases, I'll just say it because it's true, in some cases, are you willing to potentially pay a little bit more knowing that you have the relationship now and in the future versus the transaction?
I think a lot of people would be. I think the perfect example of that on a consumer website is Amazon.
Yeah.
Because they're not always the cheapest. Oftentimes they are. I mean, they usually have really good deals, but oftentimes they're not. And I think people use them because of the convenience and because they know they're getting a good product. I mean, I can't tell you how much my wife and I use Amazon Prime. It's ridiculous. But does it make more sense to go to a store or to sit at home and have it delivered to you for a little bit more? I mean, I think the latter. Ranya's nodding her head. It's the same thing too. But yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know if that paralleled well, but I guess what I'm saying, I'm getting back to like the service standpoint. They provide a good service, whereas a realtor provides a good service. So it's again, I go back. I just now, especially that I have a kid, I really analyze the value of my time. And I think that if you're out there,
it's a good barometer.
If you're out there like thinking about selling your home on your own, you really need to analyze the amount of time. Yeah, well, that too. But plus, the other thing, I mean, maybe there isn't the right service out there to help them with that yet.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe that Uber of real estate's coming someday. I don't know.
We got to wrap up in a minute or so, but to me, this always comes back to the same thing, and it's education and information. That's one of the reasons I enjoy doing the show, and I think we've had a fair amount of success with the show and podcasts and exposure, and it's because the one thing I hear all the time when people email, call, respond, no matter what, it's always the same thing. I love the show because I learn. I love the show because you guys aren't selling something. I love the show because I learn something about what I could do in and around real estate.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason I come back to that is that the more educated you are as a consumer, then you have a potential to make wise decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I'm speechless.
Well, before we wrap up, so any final thoughts in terms of for sale by owner or any of these types of services, and specifically to the Bay Area? What would you say as a final thought?
Geez, I would just say, we talk about it all the time on the show. I mean, talk to a professional. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hurt to just have a conversation. Right. It's not going to kill you. Yeah. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to put you in the hospital. So ask someone for advice. Ask someone for their opinion. Get the process started, and go from there. And then that way you can make an informed decision. I guess that's what I would say. You know,
in closing too, what I relate it to as you're talking about that, you guys ever make the mistake real quickly? I know we got to go, but you ever make the mistake? I've done this. You go buy a barbecue. I did this years ago. And you say, what does it cost to put it together? And the guy goes, $100.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm not going to pay $100. Yeah. Put that thing in my car. I'll put it together when I get home.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Yeah, right.
Disaster.
Hey, it's a huge
You open up that box.
Yeah.
60,000 nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, that's kind of what I relate to.
I have a house listed right now that has a big play set out in the back. And they told me it took them 40 hours to put it together. It was like 3,000 parts. And I'm like, dude, should have just, you could have had someone put it together for you. Yeah, 40 hours, a full work week.
Ooh.
No thanks.
All right. All right, with that, thanks again for tuning in. Joe Kuchera sitting alongside Mike D'Ambrosio. As always, if you want more information, go to RE Radio Live. Until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.